Okay, right out of the gates, do not fast forward. I'm going to throw you a curveball. I know I like starting out with the sponsors, Silk City, Perry Skincare, my Patreon. I don't want to do that. I want to speak freely and openly and honestly. Thank you so much for supporting my podcast. I really do appreciate it. It will continue to grow and it will continue to build. And it takes you to continue listening and telling friends and sharing it, everything else. And I want to say this before we get in today's podcast, because we have a great story behind the podcast. And the reason why I wanted to do this podcast is because I really do believe as I get older that, and I get more wiser to how the world's working and how people operate and people's intentions. I see people, especially in my industry, pander to get followers, unite with people to get followers, step on people's faces to get ahead. And I never wanted to be that. All I ever wanted to do was be creative and have fun and support myself. How do you do that? How do you do that and be honest? I don't know, but that's my goal as a comedian, as a podcaster, is to continue to be honest and straightforward. Sometimes my views, my opinions are not going to get me further. They're not going to serve me well. They may not get me on Joe Rogan or wherever the case may be. Theo Vaughn may not ask me on because of who I hang out with. I don't know. And I'm just using them as examples. I'm not saying them in particular. I have no vendetta. I've known Theo for a long time. He's always been very nice. What I'm trying to say is I'm just trying to be as authentic as possible and just be as genuine as possible and let that serve me well. I'm not looking to get famous. I'm not looking to get infamous. I just want to build a nice gathering, a community of people are like-minded that are tired of the bullshit. They're tired of the propaganda, the pandering. And let's just be honest. Sometimes your feelings are going to get hurt. Sometimes you will disagree with somebody. That's going to happen. And it's okay. It's all right. It's an uncomfortable feeling at first when people don't agree with you or don't like who you're hanging, but you can get through that is what I'm trying to say. That's a life lesson. If you're going through a tough time, you'll get through it. Eventually, it's going to happen. It's going to suck. It's like going to the gym. You're hungover, you go to the gym, you don't want to do anything. You're like, I don't want to do this. It's going to be painful. It's going to be hard. But then you do the workout and you feel fantastic. You got through it. What I'm trying to say is young comics listening right now, or just people in general that are stuck, that are afraid, because don't get me wrong, a lot of people are afraid right now. They're afraid of the news. They're afraid of what people think. They're afraid of getting canceled. Stay the course in whatever you believe in. If you want to be funny, and you don't think people are going to like it, try it out. Go for it. Take a chance. Jump in that pool. You never know. And that's how I'm going to play my career from this day forward. The more and more I keep doing this podcast, the more and more I make content, I'm doing it for me. And it might not serve me well. And trust me, there's a lot of online hate with me. But I'm going to believe in myself and continue to move forward, whether I fail, whatever. I continue to get back up. My whole career, I've always gotten back up. I failed a lot. You've been with me on the journey. You've seen my ups, my downs, lots of downs, but I get back up. But believe in what you're doing. Don't pander to what the popular opinion is or to be the cool kid in school. Just do what you do and be true to yourself so you can be happy at the end of the day. The reason why I'm saying it, because today's guest is a guy I met a while ago, but he got on my radar because we ran into each other at a show, a friend's show. And he lives down here in the Florida area because you never know where life's going to take you. He came down here because he used to work for the WWE and a pandemic hit. And next thing you know, he lives down here, but he's a comic. And he released a special. I went online, I watched his special, and I started doing a deep dive into his content. Tons of content out there, constantly grinding, making stuff happen. And it's funny. And I'm thinking to myself, I've seen a lot of garbage out there. And this guy's really good. He's really funny. His name's Jonny Loquasto. And we'll talk about everything that he's doing. But the reason why I'm saying this is because I found him on my own. I didn't have NBC telling me what to do. I didn't have Neil Brennan saying, this is the guy I'm sucking up to. I met him. We talked, mutual friends. And then he's living down here, and I decided to watch a lot of his stuff, and I was very entertained. And I go, wow, I found this on my own. And I think that's what you need to do with entertainment. And as a performer and a content creator, you need to do the same thing, because there's somebody out there that's going to watch your stuff and they're going to love it. I know some people on my Patreon that are diehard people, and they continue to support. And that's what you got to do. Be brave. Be fearless in what you like and what you want to create. There's going to be the haters, the trolls, they're coming. But stay the course, because they go away. Trust me. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Excuse me. It's a great story. And he's a very inspiring comic after watching all his stuff and talking to him. So give it a listen. And Silk City Hot Sauce, 15% off if you use the promo code Zumock. Slip it in there and sign up to the Patreon, guys. Speaking of supporting a comic, again, Tin Millen's making $155,000. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. All right, it's a Sit Down Zumock podcast, STZ. It's me, Florida's most wanted, Florida's greatest, the Lawson's chip dip consumer, the has-been baller, the Z-Man, coming live and direct from Florida. With me, as always, is Tyler. Tyler, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Sorry I missed last week.
Yeah, fuck you. We have a very special guest today. A gentleman I want to showcase and promote on my little platform. I met him a few years back, and we got reacquainted recently. We did a show together, and I did a deep dive into his material. A guy's constantly producing content, funny content. And guys, I think as creators and as comedians, we need to champion, because we cannot rely on these outlets and these corporations. So a guy I want to showcase, a guy I believe in, a funny dude who has a new special out, which you can get on Roku. Jonny, can you give all your plugs right out of the gate so we don't wait to the end and everyone can go find you right now?
Well, the first thing I'm going to plug is your sports card behind you over your left shoulder. Dude, now this is a wrestling reference. I apologize ahead of time. You look like one of the Mean Street Posse in that baseball card / basketball card right now with the sweater on. Oh, my God.
That was the whole thing. That was the thing behind it. And don't ever apologize for a wrestling reference, and we'll get into it.
Okay. I like to apologize up front for people that don't pay attention or don't know or think that it's just not an adult thing to be into. So I'm like, hey, by the way, you look like this obscure reference here. Let me get that out of the way. But no, I knew you wouldn't care. So anyways.
About a year ago, we had Sid Vicious on, and I co-hosted his podcast. So the wrestling world is connected with this podcast. We've had Mick Foley on, so people know who you are. But go ahead. I don't want to interrupt the plugs.
I love it. I'm sorry. I'm bad at plugging myself. Yeah, my comedy special, Jonny Loquasto Physical Therapy. It is streaming for free on Roku, on Tubi, on Zumo, over your mom's house. Pretty much anywhere you can watch comedy specials. I never heard of Zumo either, but it's a streaming platform. I guess people use it. But the two biggest ones right now, Roku and Tubi. It's free. A couple ad breaks, which is always fun when a real commercial pops up during a comedy special. Like, wow, I might see a few cents of that. We'll see how it goes.
And you can go to quastospecial.com to download it. There's 3 ways, like you said. You can also follow you on all social media. Instagram. What's your handles on Twitter and Instagram?
All the same. JQUASTO. J Quasto.
Okay. Now with the plugs out of the way, Jonny, I know you, but I don't know you. Where are you from? When did you get started? Tell your backstory to the kids.
I'm from a small town called Northampton, Pennsylvania. Had about 10, 15,000 people growing up. Now it's about maybe doubled or so. We had a lot of farmland that has now been overrun by shoddy home constructors with houses that generally fall apart in a short time frame. It's it's a place to live. And yeah, I grew up there, became a fat kid. About 9 to 10 years old.
Now, was that a goal of yours to become fat, or is it just happen?
It's actually, if you really set your mind to it, you can become fat too. It's not that difficult.
I'm doing it right now as we speak.
Well, I see you're on a Stairmaster while we're recording, so at least you're burning some calories. It was one of those things. I don't know, man. Like I ate a lot. My brother was chubby growing up, but man, I trumped him in the chubby cat. I mean, I started to get chubby in like 4th grade, and then 5th grade. Like if you look at my school pictures, it's like the metamorphosis. You know what I mean? And then in 5th grade, I was starting to get pretty chubby. I had like the racing stripes carved into the side of my head because I apparently make bad decisions even at 10 years old. 6th grade. Wow. I mean, my school class picture, I was wearing a red sweater and I looked like the pale Kool-Aid kid. It was just a massive blob of red amongst a bunch of other children in the class photo. And then 7th grade, the fatness continued. And that was bad because we had junior high school. So going into 7th grade, it was a brand new school for me. 2 days after school started, I fell out of a tree and sprained my ankle at a Labor Day picnic. So I essentially started 7th grade, a brand new school, as a massively fat kid on crutches, having to leave class early and then showing up to the next class sweating profuse. I was sweating. Oh my God. I was sweating like a middle-aged plumber who just did his 6th job in a row in July. Like I was sweating so bad. I could not have been any less cool as a fat kid.
I always like to ask comedians their backgrounds because within 5 minutes, I can find out why they're comedian. Why would you go down this road? And I know exactly why.
Yeah, and I'm not complaining. Look, dude, I grew up, lower middle class. I had what I needed, especially tartar sauce.
And food, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so I was just a big kid. But you know how it is when you're a big kid, if you don't develop a sense of humor, if you don't try to divert people's attention away from being a fat kid to being the funny kid, you're going to be in trouble, So I just kind of took that chip on my shoulder and just brought it with me for the next, 30 years.
Now, Tyler's not a comedian, but he's a big comedy fan. He listens to podcasts all the time. Now, do you get a sense of that from comics that you could see that there's some sort of trauma that put them in this world that we live in?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like what, all of them, but maybe Chris D'Elia, right? I mean, seriously, like, of course that there's always something there, but I was going to say, it's funny because,
by the way, Chris's trauma came in the height of his career.
Right.
he was definitely born with a silver spoon and did not live like he was like people talk about the 1%. Homeboy grew up as the 1% and got into comedy as the 1%. But hey, he looks like Jesus. So to
his credit, I started with Chris in Hollywood. And I remember doing the open mics. He never let that on. He put the work in. He busted his ass.
Yeah,
so I credit where credit's due. I always got to defend him in that. Like, because I'm going to do it on my own merit. He didn't use his father, to get into the Comedy Store or the Laugh Factory. He did it on his own.
Look, dude's talented as can be. I was just saying, like, he definitely grew up unlike the rest of us, for sure.
Sure. But go ahead, Tyler.
No, that was about the end of it there, but yeah, obviously every single one of the comedians, big names, they have something going on or something that they overcame some way. It's a defense mechanism. It's a way to combat things, right? But I was going to say before I lost my thought, even if you progressed with being a fat kid, like one of my favorite shows is 600 Pound Life. So you still would have had a shot to be on TV. You know what I mean?
Dude, what if that's my first TV credit? What? Man, it's funny because, and Chad, you can relate to this obviously because you've been on TV a bunch of times, but like as a comic, we're always chasing that first TV credit because we think, man, once I get that TV credit, dude, it's going to be easy money. And 2 of my pet rats got a TV credit before I did.
What were they in? What's your Rats' IMDb?
They were on an episode of a short-lived show. I want to say it was on Oxygen.
Ooh.
called Storybook Wedding.
Wow.
Now get this shit. So my ex-girlfriend and I, this is over 10 years ago now. She convinced me. She's like, hey, rats are really cool pets. They're kind of like little puppy dogs. And I was like, I love animals. I'll give them a shot. To her credit, they were awesome. We had these 2 little cute pet rats. They were adorable. They weren't hard to take care of. You show them attention. They sleep in a hammock. It's a good life. Well, we end up breaking up. Within a couple of months, she was engaged, right? And she submitted to, at the time, Tori Spelling and her husband, Dean something, Dean Spelling. I don't know. They had a reality show. They were able to get a spinoff of that reality show to where they decided to become wedding planners. And they shot an 8-episode series that got canceled after one season. Well, her and her new fiance submitted for this show.
Dean McDermott.
There you go.
Yeah.
They got Dean Spelling. He took her name. They submitted for this show and got chosen. So like they had this like Hollywood wedding. It was like an hour-long episode. And the rats were in like this golden cage on a pedestal, and everyone was like waving to them and shit in the episode. And I remember one of my buddies, Robbie Pickard, not a comic anymore, but funny guy. He came over to watch it with me the night it aired, and we ordered pizza. And he secretly filmed me on his phone, just saying random heckles to my TV. And at one point, I was eating a pizza. I'm like, this goddamn rat's got a TV credit before me, just shoving pizza into my mouth.
After that, did you walk around the house going, you guys think you're something? Yeah. Well,
doing the old Adam Sandler. You think you're better than me?
You're nothing. Fuck you. So you go on from there, from out of high school. You obviously you get skinny at one point. When's that happen?
Very soon, hopefully. Yeah, no, I mean, it was my sophomore year in college. I was in a physical therapy program. Like, if I'm going to be a physical therapist, I should at least, play the part or look the part, whatever it's called. And so I went on like a really strict 1,200 calorie a day diet, which when you're eating every day in the cafeteria, it's not that difficult because nothing's good. And I would weigh myself in every Friday to the point where I think the nurse at the nurse's office at my university thought I had a problem, because not many people just show up every Friday like, hi, just here to use the scale. And then like you leave,
Yeah.
And I probably dropped about 35 pounds in one semester down to about 172. And then I started like going to the gym consistently, became like a gym rat. By the time my senior year rolled around, when I was on the basketball team, I was the last guy off the bench. So I did not play. I had 10 career points, and all I cared about my final year was just lifting. Like, I wanted to be the strongest kid on the team, even though there were dudes way bigger than me. And I was pretty close to being the strongest kid on the team, to where like by the time the season rolled around and I stopped playing even in practice, anytime I'd even get a chance to play in practice, I'd be like airballing threes because I had like bench press arms. You know what I mean? When you can't extend. I was just like a big hunk of meat in a jersey that didn't fit, just like rolling around. But it was fun, though. I loved being the bench guy.
So you went on to be a trainer. How did that come about? What school did you go to?
Physical therapist. I went to University of the Sciences in Philadelphia.
Ooh.
Yeah, man.
And to this day, you're a physical therapist. You still have that as a thing.
Yeah. I mean, I've gone in and out of it throughout the last 15 years. But, when the pandemic hit, a lot of stuff changed for everyone. And I went back to the hospital. And, for the past year, I've been, working bedside with people, many of which have had COVID and stuff. So that's been a crazy experience. I'll be able to look back on, hopefully, when this is all over, and, be glad that I helped people, and hopefully I won't get sick. Hasn't happened yet. So,
when did you start comedy?
First time on stage was end of April or May of 2005. It was a class graduation at the Irvine Improv.
Okay. Familiar. Yeah. The old Irvine Improv?
The old Irvine Improv. And chances are you might know the guy who taught the class. Do you remember a comic named Christian Valet?
I know the name. I don't know. I know the name for sure.
Yeah, he quit a long time ago. But at the time, he was taken off. He was repped by Power Entertainment, who I think became Levity. He was opening for a bunch of people. And so he taught this like 6-week class. And, at the end of the 6 weeks, you have that show in front of 200 of the kindest, gentlest, best laughers in history, and you think after that 6 minutes that you're going to be the next Carlin, and then everything comes crashing down afterwards.
Could you not afford Kyle Cease's class? Is that why?
Oh, what a reference! Whatever happened with the whole? What's he doing? Is he not?
From what I hear, he's a motivational speaker now. Now, Tyler, do you remember the slow clapper? What was the movie called where he was a slow clapper? Do you remember?
That Kyle was in?
Yeah. That was like his big credit that he rode that wave. He rode it.
Wow. I did not know that.
can find it in one.
It was like
second here.
Everything I Hate About You, or just 10 Things I Hate. I don't know what it was called, but anyways,
10 Things I Hate About You.
Yeah. If you see him, you're I know that dude.
Well,
So,
I did go. I remember the one time he did it at the Comedy Store, and I remember going down one day just to see what was going on, because like I've seen the trailers, and like the trailer was very. You can tell he watched a lot of Tony Robbins, because the trailer made you think that you were going to learn stand-up comedy from Tony Robbins. And I like Tony Robbins. Obviously, he's been doing it for 40 years, and nothing bad has come out about him. I'm like, he's probably a decent dude at this point. Kind of like Mr. Rogers. I think Mr. Rogers, we can assume, is a decent dude at this point. But
as much as we want him not to be, like, I want some dirt on Rogers. Fred Rogers, I want him like a sketchy past. He molested somebody. He killed someone in World War II, but it's not there. No,
he's just an angel. And, I like Tony Robbins. I like what he does. His stuff's expensive, but if people want to pay it. But yeah, I remember watching that trailer. I'm like, dude, this doesn't look like a stand-up comedy class. It looks like a personality transformation where everyone's going to go into some kind of trance, and next thing you know, they're going to be sipping Kool-Aid. I'm like, I got to go check this out.
Yeah. So from there, you kind of more or less just kind of do the road, do the mics, and roll around. And how did you get connected with the WWE? How did that come about?
Just rolling around in the mud, just having fun in the sandbox. So I started working in wrestling in 2010. So I was already doing a lot of hosting. I'm the kind of person there wasn't one thing I loved. Like the fact that I was lucky enough to be doing anything in entertainment, I never thought I would do stand-up. So I started doing stand-up. I was like,
I identify it with everything you're saying. That's why, like, I really wanted to talk to you, because I feel what you're like. I never really wanted to be a stand-up. I just became one, and I just rode with it.
Yeah, I mean, my dream growing up, to this day, my favorite show ever is In Living Color. Like that show, if it wasn't for that show, I don't think I ever would have wanted to be funny in my life.
Mine was Kids in the Hall. I wanted to be one of the kids in the hall and do that. That's what Tyler, you remember me from back home, like Last Call Cleveland. I was trying to be Kids in the Hall. I was in a sketch group before I did stand-up.
Mm-hmm. Now tell me this. You'll appreciate this. I still rate Brain Candy as one of my top 5 movies, and is so underrated and underappreciated and unwatched. It is so ahead of its time. It's fucking genius.
It's so quotable. And I remember, and it's not much of a name drop because barely anyone's going to remember him, but Bruce McCullough, who was in the Kids in the Hall, who's my comedic idol. Yep. I saw him working out at Crunch one time on Sunset. You know Crunch?
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit. I'm the only one in the world going, holy shit, it's Bruce McCullough. No one gives a fuck. I'm like, I got to go say hi to him. And I went up to him and I go, Brain Candy is one of the greatest movies of all time. And he was so cool. Number one, he got recognized. And number two, that I really meant it. He felt it. We talked about it for a while. Dude. Yeah, you're absolutely right. If you're a sketch guy, you love comedy, and go check it out. It's somewhere out there. You can find it.
Well, I'm sure you know the story. One of the reasons the movie tanked is because of a character that Bruce did in the movie. Did you ever hear this story?
No, please.
So basically, Brain Candy, they turned it into, I forget what the studio was. It may have been Fox or one of the major studios. And they came back to the Kids in the Hall and said, yo, you got to take Cancer Boy out of this movie.
Oh, yes.
And they said, no, he's a character in the movie. We're leaving in Cancer Boy. They said, if you don't take Cancer Boy out, we are going to...
Tyler, he's exactly how you picture him, too. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm looking.
Bruce McCullough plays a little boy in a wheelchair who's got a really strong Canadian accent. And he's a very... If there's any inspiring character in the film, it would be Cancer Boy, right? And Kids in the Hall were like, no, we're not taking him out. And the studio said, if you don't take him out of the movie, we're going to stop promotion immediately. We're not going to announce the release. It's just going to be a quiet release, and it's going to fail. And Kids in the Hall were like, look, this is our art. This is our work. This is our movie. We're leaving it in. And that's essentially why the movie came out to crickets, because there was no promotion behind it.
And it was great, but it did find that cult following like a lot of movies do on VHS. Like back, I like movies like Billy Madison. Schwartzen told me the what's the game movie that he was in?
Oh, I don't remember.
It's his. It has Grandma's Boy.
Grandma's Boy.
Yeah, there you go. And also my favorite movie of all time, cult classic, UHF with Weird Al.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah. So movies like that, that they give me motivation, you know, and one of my best friends back home, all we do is quote brain candy back and forth because we're the only two people that celebrate brain candy like we do. And so we make each other laugh, but it's so silly. But yeah, Kids in the Hall were an inspiration and Living Color. You're Bruce McCullough. Mine's David Allen Greer. I think he's one of the most brilliantly underrated, talented people in Hollywood. And everything he does, I'll watch it. And I got to open for him a few times, and it was just like, sitting in the green room with him, trying not to fanboy out was.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy.
Oh yeah, he's the best. I can go all day about David Allen Greer, but yeah. So in Living Color, I credit to making me even think about doing comedy, and then I'm doing stand up for a while. I get a chance I win this like comedy contest with CBS Mobile. This is right when digital content started happening on cell phones. Like we're talking like 2007, 2008. And the winner of the contest got to host a show on CBS Mobile. So that was my like introduction to hosting on camera, and reading a teleprompter came natural. You know, two of my really close friends to this day, I met working at that job. And so one of which actually edited all the commercials on my comedy special. The other of which edited the rest of my comedy special. So these two guys I met at CBS Mobile when they were working there now each have their own business. One guy's in LA, one guy's in Minnesota, and they're brilliant editors. They work on anything editing wise, shooting wise. They're one-stop shops. And they're the two guys who edited my special all these years later. So it's, you know, when I tell people say yes to everything, as long as it doesn't compromise who you are as a person, even if it's maybe going to be free, do it, because you truly never know who you're going to meet. You never know what kind of friendships are going to develop. And that's how I got in wrestling.
Well, not to cut you off, but to piggyback, and not to one up you, but just to make a connection. The reason why I do this podcast is this guy up here, Tyler, in 2013. Oh, in my box, you're up there. And we reconnected a couple years ago. And we're both, he sent me a message. He's like, I want to get back in podcasts. If you know anybody who wants to, like, somebody needs to produce podcasts and all that. It's like, wait, I do. So, but we met a while back, and he kind of got this thing rolling. So I agree. Awesome. Just having those relationships and knowing people, and then you meet friends along the way. So that's cool. I like that connection. Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier, it's a day and age now where as comics, and no matter what realm of comedy you're working in, whether it's stand up or whether it's sketch or whether it's improv, we do have to help each other out, because there's only a small percentage of people that are going to get signed by CAA, that are going to get signed by WME or any other 3-letter major agency who automatically hook you up with stuff for the most part. Like the rest of us, you know, it's a hustle, it's a grind. You know, we got to consistently prove ourselves. And it's almost like, I don't want to say fighting back against the system, but it is in a way. It's like, look, we need to find ways to get what we do out to people, because there's a lot of people out there who are looking for content, who are looking to have a good time. And, you know, that's what I appreciate about you. You make friendships and you never know what'll come out of it, you know?
You know, when you said 3-letter agencies, and I missed the boat, it might be too late, but I wanted to throw in KKK, but it's too late. We're going to move forward.
I mean, to be fair, I have heard they're always looking, you know, like if you email them,
they like to produce
you're not going to get a response. Yeah, they do. And if you email them, you're not going to get a response back saying, really sorry, I already have your type. I just have too much bandwidth to bring you on right now. I don't think they're going to email you that response that I've gotten from other agencies. Just saying.
I'm just saying that they're the opposite of Netflix. They're constantly looking for white guys.
Yeah. And also they appreciate when you produce your own content. So yeah, you know, they're
the opposite of NBC too. They don't want diversity at all.
That's what I've heard. I can't say, look, I don't agree with it. I'm just saying I think they're a little bit easier to get with than CAA, you know. But yeah, so the rest, go ahead.
Speaking of 3-letter words, WWE, we touched on it, and then how'd that all come about? Because I'm an old school wrestling guy, and I pay attention to what's going on. I know some of the similar wrestlers that we know, and I always feel like wrestlers and comics are very similar or very nomadic. Mm-hmm. You know, we got to book our own flights, our own hotels. It's you know, we got to go city to city, but there's a little bit more physicals, are a little bit more mental. I don't know. Like, how did you get involved?
So another thing where relationships. So I was hosting a project at the time. And the main camera guy, him and I just started talking in between takes about wrestling. He's a big fan. I've been a big fan. And a couple months later, I get an email from this guy named David Marquez. And he said, hey, I was speaking to Jeremy. He's a camera operator of mine. I'd like to meet with you. Okay. So we met at a Starbucks in the Valley. And he said, hey, I'm starting a weekly professional.
The Valley, 818 till I die. Go ahead.
Enjoy it. So it was a solo scene on a yoga mat. Anyways, probably my favorite. Actually, no, my favorite Brody joke, which I don't even think he did that often. I don't know if it was one of his keepers or not. He goes, I'm well read. I've been to the Reagan Library. It was to return some overdue books, but nonetheless, it was something like that. Or the cemetery.
I'm intelligent. I bathe in smart water.
I never heard that one. Anyways, so we meet and he's like, hey, I'm starting a weekly professional wrestling broadcast and I need a guy to do interviews. Would you want to do it? I said, absolutely. I was already in. I never thought I'd have an opportunity to work in wrestling. Let's do it. And long story short, I worked on that show for over 9 years, over 400 episodes, eventually transitioned around 2014 into doing commentary where I would do color, play-by-play. I kind of was like back and forth depending on what the need was for the show, you know. Well, it was good. I was able to do both. Now, in wrestling, I believe the color commentator should generally be an ex-wrestler or someone who's been in the ring because they can provide the expertise. Luckily, me as a physical therapist, I was able to provide expertise on the body, like what submissions are being done to where and that kind of thing. So I was able to kind of go back and forth there. And yeah, and then throughout that, I, be hired by other promotions here and there. Had a chance to go to the Middle East to entertain the troops. I created a tour called the Ringside Salute Tour, where I went over with five professional wrestlers who were well known. We did it 2 years in a row. That was cool. And then I ended up going to Pakistan twice. I was part of a team that brought pro wrestling to Pakistan for the first time ever, which was completely insane. I wore every hat over there. I was the ring announcer, the host, the commentator, the timekeeper, trying to make stuff backstage in order. Like whatever I needed to do, I did. And it was a tremendous experience. And they're a company called Ring of Pakistan and so cool. But then early 2019, it's just how it works. Over the years, you make connections and friends of yours start working for the company and they keep you in mind. And obviously on the announce team, there aren't a lot of openings. Well, I guess there was an opening and sent my stuff in. One thing led to another. They gave me a shot. And April 2019, I started and was there for a little over about a full year and got to do everything, play-by-play, interviews, ring announcing, live event host, creating content, studio stuff. Like it was awesome. Just an amazing experience. And I feel like even after working in wrestling for 9 years, I got like 80% better by being there for that 1 year. It's pretty cool. I don't want to let go of this real quick because I have a bunch of questions. Tyler, you said before the podcast you had something about.
Well, no, is that why you're in Orlando now? Was WWE?
Yeah. They needed me in Orlando, so that's why I moved to Florida. And the pandemic hit, life changed for everyone in one way or another, and so we've all had to pivot in different ways. And the one positive is I got to put my special out because I shot it in November of 2018. Then I put it on the shelf when I moved to Orlando. I was like, I can't put this out until I could put my heart behind it 100%, and so after the pandemic hit, things changed. I was able to get a distribution deal. It was about like a 11 month process through getting the deal to getting it released. Still waiting on a few platforms, hopefully. So that was the cool thing. I was able to focus on that and really go all out with being so proud of the special and now having it out there. And so, stuff happens. You just got to make the best of any situation. It's kind of what, we're all trying to do.
Tyler, I know you're a big UFC. Are you a wrestling guy too, Tyler?
See, that's the thing. I'm not, I'm not well versed in WWE and all that. I mean, I would watch it, growing up. But no, I'm not. But the reason I asked that about the Orlando thing is I went to Full Sail University, and I know that as I was leaving, they were starting to host some WWE events. So that's where the question came from. I lived in a shithole, and it was like across the street from UCF, and then my last year I lived in Maitland.
Oh yeah, man! I was at Full Sail every week. Love that place. Yep.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to how everything ties in together, like you said you weren't really setting out to be a stand-up. Either was I. In fact, people always ask me, who are my favorite stand-up comedian influences? And I don't really have stand-up comedian influences. Eddie Murphy. I'm very generic when it comes to it. But my comedic influence, my top three were Bruce McCullough, Martin Short, and Roddy Piper.
Hell yes.
Piper was my guy. Like, I wanted to just talk shit on a microphone. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to be a heel. And I wanted to come down the aisle. I wanted to entrance, and I wanted to talk shit. That was my comedic idol.
Mm-hmm. You and Steve Simone both, man. It was, I loved him growing up. Never thought I'd, become friends with him. I mean, who knew Roddy would get in the stand-up comedy scene and the storytelling scene? But if you look at his body of work, it wasn't surprising because the guy was talented beyond belief. And you want to talk about story. His life story is insane. It's hard to believe. I mean,
if you don't get a chance, go watch the WWE. It's the A&E biography. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. It's online. You can watch it. It's so his life was crazy.
Well, I remember he told me the one story that's become famous. He told me just one-on-one one day because he had a lot of neck issues. He broke his neck twice, and I actually worked on his neck a few times, physical therapy wise.
Yeah.
And I hooked him up with a really good water pillow that's really good for the neck. And sure enough, like I remember after I got him the pillow, every time I'd see him over the next couple of months, he goes, "Oh, brother, that pillow's helping me a lot." Like, the way Roddy talks, like, it's really helping a lot. But,
it's a pretty good impression.
But I remember him telling me the story about his first time in the ring. He was like 15 and got tossed in the ring against Larry the Axe Hennig, which is Mr.
Kurt
Perfect's
Hennig's
dad.
Yeah.
Who was a beast. Well, the Axe literally broke his nose. And I think Roddy got paid $25. And I remember he always ends the story with, and they came up to me afterwards. They said, "Good job, kid. How would you like to go to Kansas City?" And that's how his wrestling career started. Unbelievable.
One of the toughest dudes of all time, and that legendary was a dog collar when the NWA before he came to the WWF. Like, I forgot who it was. Greg the Hammer Valentine.
They had a hell of a feud, absolutely.
And I guess he ruptured his ear and lost hearing in one side of his ear for the rest of his life, from what I understand.
Yeah, I mean, look, he had so many physical issues, but I'll tell you what, man, every time I saw Rod had a smile on his face, he was truly grateful. Like, even the nights, I wish I would have spent more time at the Comedy Store, but life is busy. It's like most of my comedy career, I've also worked, at a hospital. And so like I would have a lot of early days and I would try to hang out at the store, but I remember how grateful he was just to be sitting in the main room at the piano with a few people, whether it be Simone or Skakel or whoever else, just telling stories. And I consider myself lucky, the fact that I at least had any kind of relationship with him. The fact that Roddy would recognize me and say hello when he saw me, I'm like, that's beyond cool for me.
How did our paths not cross? We know the same people. We were around the same time. I don't understand. I mean, I think I met you at Side Splitters with Brent Ernst, and that was the first time. And we had all these mutual friends.
Yeah, I mean, I've known who you are for years because I saw your half hour back in the day. But I don't know, maybe. What?
No, I'm just saying, of course you knew who I was. I was trying to get.
I thought you were mad at the back in the day reference. Like, back in 97. No, I don't know. You must have been on the road a lot, I guess.
I was a road dude. I went after it for hardcore. But let me, I'm sorry to pick your thing about, I love the inner workings of the WWE and wrestling and that world. Yeah. I'm more fascinated behind the scenes than I'm actually with the actual product. I just like all the stories and crazy things. Calling like an actual match and seeing the inner workings. Can you share some of the experiences or wild stories that you've seen?
Dude, it's crazy because I think as a whole, I think play-by-play commentary in sports is so underappreciated.
And the fact that you never had a background, you just picked it up, is amazing. That's kind of like what Rogan did with the UFC.
And that's the thing is like, I unfortunately, I don't know Rogan. I'm one of the few comics in LA who never really, I've been in the vicinity of him, but I've never been introduced to him. I've never met him. And obviously he's MMA, which I love and respect. It just so happens that pro wrestling is obviously the lifelong dream and the route that I went. But, a career like he's had, you look at it, it's like, we're allowed to do what we want. Like we're not confined to being good at just one thing. That's the biggest thing with me in life. It's like, I know people, they want to do one thing. I just want to do stand-up. Boom. I just want to be an actor. That's great. Like sometimes in life, I wish I had one dream and that's all I wanted. Because if you focus on one thing, I think a lot of times you get to that destination quicker. But for me, it's like, I love so many things. I thought, you know what? I'm going to be as good as I can at all the things I love and see where it goes. And so like, I don't know. I mean, I guess as a stand-up, you know how to talk after a while, you know how to riff. And for me, it's like when it comes to wrestling, it's about respect. I respect what everyone's doing in the ring. So for me, I want to try to tell their story. And that's the number one thing I focus on. And then eventually it starts to slow down. You know, like even after calling matches all those years, I got to WWE and I really got to the nitty gritty and I got to learn more about structure and how, you know, more or less.
Who did you work with? Did you work with King Lawler or anybody?
No, I mean, on commentary, a couple different people throughout the time I did it. A guy formerly known as Aiden English. Now his name is Matt I can't say it right. Matt Rarewolt. He just signed with Impact Wrestling, just debuted last week. Also, I did one episode with my buddy Mansoor, who's currently an active wrestler on Monday Night Raw. And I did an episode with Byron Saxton, who's currently a commentator on Raw. And I think as far as play-by-play, that's who I worked with. But as far as practicing, I learned from the entire announce team. You know, a guy named Tom Hannafin, who used to be essentially my boss, learned tons from him. A guy named Vic Joseph, who's the lead on NXT. Incredible. When you learn from people who have been in the system and know how it works, it just starts to seep in after a while. And so for me, there's a science to commentary, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, hockey, or wrestling. There is a science to it. You can't just jump in and automatically be good at it. And so for me, it was almost like relearning how to ride a bike when I got there. But once it sunk in, and especially even during the pandemic, everything I learned started to seep into my brain. So now when I watch it, I'm like firing quicker. So now when I do commentary, I feel great. I feel confident. And the most important thing is having respect for the people in the ring and what they're doing and what they're trying to tell. And I love it. Like I'm so grateful that I'm able to do it every single time, whether it's for them or whether it's for another company, you know?
Well, let me circle back to like some of the cool experiences. And was there a wrestler that you kind of like gained new respect for, a guy who became a favorite because you got to see it firsthand?
Some of the reactions are just insane. So right before New Year's of 2019, I got a chance to be the ring announcer and host of part of the holiday tour. The holiday tour every year is huge, right? And I got to be on the SmackDown team. We did 3 nights in a row. We did Toronto, Montreal, and then Staples Center. Staples Center was night 3. Toronto, Montreal, both sold out. I want to say 10, 11,000 people. Incredible. And then we fly from Montreal to LA. We leave at like 6 a.m. I landed LA. I realized, I'm like, oh, I don't have a hotel booked for me. So I texted Brad Williams and I was like, Brad, I hate to bother you. I don't know if you're in town. Can I just come to your house, maybe take a nap and a shower? He's like, sure. He's like, don't you have Staples Center night? I'm like, yeah, I don't have a hotel and I don't want to bother anyone with it. He goes, yeah, sure. Come over. So I go to the house, take a little nap. Actually, I don't even know if I took a nap. I took a shower. I got ready and then I hauled it down to Staples Center. Got there like, I don't know, by 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. And that night, if it wasn't sold out, it was pretty damn close. I'm talking 13,000 people. And just the reaction that everyone gets, let alone certain people. Like when the New Day come out, you know, it was Big E and it was Kofi. I think Xavier Woods was injured at the time. You know, Kofi's out throwing the pancakes. Big E hits the ring. And the moment he locks eyes with me, he starts like pelvic thrusting towards me. And he forces me to dance with him in the center of the ring in front of everyone.
And you have to go along with what the wrestlers are doing. You got to play the game, right?
Oh, of course. And it's crazy because at Staples Center, a place I've gone to for years, a city I've lived in for over a decade, I look down, I see friends in the crowd. I look to my right, I see Mario Lopez just smiling, having the best time ever. It's the weirdest thing ever. And like, I have the mic. I'm hosting the whole event. I'm out there an hour before bell time. You know what I mean? And so New Day's reaction. You know who really had the crowd in the palm of their hands, though, was a guy named Sami Zayn. He is not only a brilliant wrestler, he is a genius. So he's a heel, and he's a real big instigator. And at the time, He wasn't wrestling. He was essentially managing. And oh my God, what he can do with the mic in his hands to make every single person in the crowd hate him. And then during the match, he almost gets his ass kicked 17 times and gets away scot-free. That is how a perfect heel manager is you instigate, you piss people off, you help your team win, and no one touches you at the end. It was he was like painting with a blank canvas with that crowd. The best part is the night before, we were in Montreal, his hometown. Oh, did he get Montreal to hate him within 10 seconds? I remember he was walking down the ramp and something to the extent of he said, you know, I grew up here and it means so much to be here in front of all of you to say, my God, how have you not left this disgusting, awful town? The fact that you're such losers and you still have to be. Oh, man, it didn't matter if those people spoke French or English. They all hated him. So like to watch people do it at that level.
That's what I want to do. I'm like re-inspired.
Yeah.
I think I just want to be a heel and have people boo.
I'm telling you, man, there's nothing like it. And I hope, hopefully the pandemic finally goes away at some point. Hopefully Delta and Lambda and all the other sorority letters go away at some point. Because all of them, because man, the wrestling crowds are hype and I don't want them to go away because the more crowds we have, the more jobs there will be, the more shows there will be. So it's pretty cool. There's a big difference between, wrestling show and a stand-up show, but you can appreciate elements to both.
Where did you film the special at that you can get at, where was the website again? The special?
Loquastospecial.com. And then you just click on the Roku, the Tubi, or the Zumo link. You could watch them all streaming free.
And honestly, guys, listen, I know people on Patreon and you guys are big givers, you're big supporters. And I don't bring comics on here just to I want to make sure these guys have an audience. So if you have a couple extra bucks in your pocket, please support. But then it's free. Yeah. And then from there, you can follow him on wherever his endeavors are, because that's the only way we're going to do this. Like, don't listen to what Netflix says is great. You got to listen to, if you trust me, then you'll trust that I'm giving you a great comic. And I've done enough research, and he's a guy who produces a lot of content. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. But go ahead. I cut you off. I'm long-winded.
I appreciate you, man. The special streaming free. It's not going to cost you a dime. Couple little ad breaks. And if afterwards you happen to have a device where you want to just play it over and over on silent, by all means, I'll appreciate that ad revenue. I have no idea when I'm getting paid for it, but hey, who gives a shit? The more people that watch it, the better, whether it's Tubi, Roku, Zumo, or whatever else it might end up on. But yeah, I'm really proud of it. I mean, it's unlike, I truly believe it's unlike any special out there. It's got an intro, it's got parody commercials, it's got a weird ending. I looked at it this way. I'm like, this might be the only comedy special I ever do in my life. I paid for every cent of it by myself, didn't do crowdfunding. It was all me. And I had a really good team. I was like, I want to look back on this in 20 years, be like, man, I don't regret anything. That's exactly what I wanted. And that's really how it came out. And it's funny because I sent it to a friend at Netflix, and he watched it. He's like, this is great. He's like, but Netflix, we only produce our own specials, blah, blah, blah. I said, I get it. He's like, besides, Netflix would make you get rid of your whole 4-minute introduction sketch. I'm like, why? That sketch shows who I am.
So
like,
stupid.
yeah. Well, he goes, our analytics show that unless a comic is getting to the stage in the first 30 seconds, the audience is going to tune out. I was like, is that why every Netflix special has become the same? He's like,
what's there to compare it to anymore?
I don't know. Like for me, I just feel like specials have become very boring over the past decade. And I get it. The crux of it still has to be the guy or the girl on stage. Of course.
That makes sense, because I remember Jeselnik's, his starts out with him telling a joke. He doesn't even come to the stage. He's just telling a joke. Right? I'm like, oh, wow, they're really getting to it.
And look, a lot of comics, when they get a Netflix special, they sign off, they get paid, and they essentially are like, whatever you want to do with it. For me, I wanted to, and when he told me that about the Netflix thing, I'm like, that's cool. That's not the audience I want. I want the audience that is going to be invested for 62 minutes. That wants something different, that wants something creative. And that's what I feel like I'm giving the audience. Because And the funny thing is, you have people who are like, well, if it's not on Netflix, it's probably not that good. It's like, no, just because it's on Netflix doesn't mean it's a good comedy special. There are plenty of bad ones that end up on Netflix.
And we all say it, and they're out there, and the whatever. Some of the gatekeepers at Netflix, they're looking to fill a quota. They're casting it. They're casting it. It's not necessarily who's the funniest, because if they were going who's the funniest, David Tell would have like 5 specials up there right now.
Exactly.
You got to just trust the comic and follow these people. What were you saying?
And it's not just Netflix too. It's any comedy, whether it be a channel or any, like you said, the gatekeepers, a lot of it is casting. They're going to choose who they want. But my main point is, look elsewhere. Don't just trust the name brands for your comedy. There's a lot of amazing comedy out there being put out by people individually who are, putting out stuff that is worthy of the attention. And so, I want to make sure when people watch the special, they're going to watch it and be like, yeah, that was not a waste of my time. I enjoyed it. So
Tyler.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, just back to like the whole analytics thing. Like, yes, it matters. It matters in everything, whether it's sports or even Netflix, right? They care. But if Netflix, if they just look at like the massive amounts of specials that are out there, right? And so if you handed me a list and I'm scrolling through my phone, let's say I pretend I work in a cubicle and I got to go sit in the stall and to be able to look at my phone. If I'm scrolling through all these stand-up specials and one person after another, everyone on stage, I'm dependent on either reading the captions or having something else stick out to me to intrigue me to watch that. And that's what gets me like on your trailer for your special is those commercials. That's what makes me stop my thumb from scrolling, right? I go, okay, he's doing something different.
Yep.
That's intriguing to me, not get straight to it. No, I want to see the interweavings. I want to see how it can all come together like that. My other question was there any backstory to your backdrop on that?
Yeah, actually, and I appreciate you saying that because I was so meticulous with the trailer. I had my editor do like 3 or 4 different takes, and it got to the point where I told him, look, and I emailed him. I said, this is exactly what I want. I want this, followed by this, followed by, and that's what we got. Because like I wanted the trailer to show a little bit of everything to where when people watch the trailer, they're gonna be like, wait, this is not a regular stand-up special. Why is this guy dancing with a bunch of angels in the clouds? Why, you know what I mean? What the hell? Why is this guy a 75-year-old politician with money in his pocket? Like I wanted to be so weird to where people are like, well, okay, at least it's gonna be different. But as far as the backdrop, really cool. A buddy of mine, former comic, he's obviously an artist now. His name is Billy Lyday. When he found out I was doing a special, because I announced when I was filming at the Brea Improv, the new Brea Improv, which is immaculate and gorgeous. Oh, dude, it's amazing. He hit me up and he's like, hey, man, I'm doing art now. And just as like a congratulations, since we're old buddies, I'm going to make like some artwork for you just for fun. Can you give me a list of things you like? And I was like, sure. And I listed a whole lot of, a bunch of stuff. And he's like, what do you have in mind? And I was like, I don't know, maybe I'm leading a parade or something. And sure enough, he draws the thing where like, I'm in a parade with all the things I love, all the people that, there's like pay homage to In Living Color. There's a pro wrestler. There's a skeleton with a lab coat and a stethoscope. There's a basketball. There's a bottle of craft beer, like all this weird stuff.
There's Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, I mean, he got cut at the final, yeah, he didn't make it in. He's in the very, very back of the parade. But even like a week before the special, we all meet at the comedy club to kind of do a location scout for the camera operators and whatnot. We still had no idea what the backdrop was going to be. So I'm looking at comedy specials, and most of them have like the fake curtain backdrop. Right. And I'm like, I don't know, I guess we're just going to do that. And at one point, my director, she's a genius, she goes, hey, throw your buddy's artwork up on the LED screen. I was like, I don't know. I think
because Brea has that screen like all the improvs do now.
Yep. I was like, I don't know. I think I'm going to get drowned out by it. She's like, just put it up there. I was like, all right. We put it up there. This is just a basic drawing. And I stand on the stage and and she's Brazilian, but she's also ex-military. She's got like a real strong, like she's oh fuck, that looks awesome. Like she's got a real like aggressive voice. I'm like, really? She goes, yeah. Could you have your buddy like spoof up the drawing a little bit to kind of make it like a little more HD quality, and then we could Photoshop it? I was like, sure. I messaged him that day. I was like, bro, I think we're gonna use your special as the backdrop. Can you just like add a little more color and make it a little more specific? He goes, sure. He does it. Someone on my team Photoshopped it, and boom. And oh my God, I'm so glad it worked out that way. It wasn't meant to be though. Like, but now that's another thing, another element that makes the special so different is I don't think there's any backdrop like it in a special.
Exactly. Well, it's another thing that stands out from all the other ones coming out now. Everyone else has, well lit behind you. You pick the color curtain, and that's about it, right?
And that's a good message. No, I said that in the intro of this. Like all you young comics that listen to this podcast, don't be afraid to take chances. There's no rules anymore. Nope. Don't it's cool to be inspired by all means, but just do what you like. And like there used to be that rule, you have to be in LA, you have to be in New York, but the pandemic showed you can do whatever you want from wherever you want. Yeah. You don't follow the formula. You stick out, take a chance. And that's why I wanted to have Jonny on. John, thank you so much, dude. We got to do a show together, some sort of concept show or something.
I mean, we're both in Florida. I don't see why we can't, split a one-nighter at some point. I don't know. We could.
Let's make that work. Thanks so much for doing the podcast, and go get Jonny's special. And again, where can people follow you?
It's Jonny Loquasto Physical Therapy, Roku, Tubi, Zumo. I'm at jquasto. I mean, I really appreciate it. I know you've been doing this podcast for 7 years?
Since 2013, Tyler, right?
Whoa.
Yeah, sounds right.
Yeah,
okay. I don't know. Your first DUI? Chad?
Yeah, well, I was charged. We took a nice plea bargain, but thank you for bringing up the past.
Well, I mean, was that the mugshot?
Yeah, that was from
there you go.
The arrest shot. Yes.
Yeah, your community service will be over very soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
Those DUIs, man, they're pricey these days. I've heard. I don't know.
I haven't had one in a long time. Well, been charged with one. So
luckily in Florida they don't exist, so you're going to be okay. But no, thank you guys so much to everyone listening. I truly appreciate being here, hanging out with you, because like I said, we're buddies, but we don't know each other super well, so it was great to kind of catch up. Same with you, Tyler, and anyone listening. I really do believe you're going to enjoy the special, and I appreciate any support you can toss our way.
Go get it, and don't forget to sign up to the Patreon and leave a 5-star review on the iTunes and everywhere else. Thank you so much. That's a wrap. See you, Tyler.